The average person, to your point, doesn't want to take the time to learn. How boring would life be if everything was an easy button? If David could just ship you via FedEx an easy button, you push the button and suddenly your ROI is 30% per year and you get to go sit on a beach. Like, how quickly would you get bored? The exciting thing in life is the challenge, the struggle. I'm not here in my little outfit today for shits and giggles. I'm here because there's a challenge in these clinics. I'm trying to help with those challenges. That's fun because I'm learning.
Today, Dr. Dustin Burleson, CEO and founder of Burleson Seminars, joins the show to discuss a vital aspect of our careers that can determine the longevity and enjoyment of our life. How much is enough? Dustin is an entrepreneur, orthodontist, podcaster, author, speaker, and a really great philosopher with wisdom we all need to hear. In this episode, we will discuss the dangers of the desire for more, how your actions determine the price of your time, the cost of chasing the wrong metrics, the fallacy of surrendering your finances to Wall Street suits, and much, much more. Before we get into it, I want to start by reading an excerpt from Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money, which is very relevant to our conversation today. At a party given by a billionaire on Shelter Island, Kurt Vonnegut informs his pal, Joseph Heller, that their host, a hedge fund manager, had made more money in a single day than Heller had earned from his wildly popular novel, Catch-22, over its whole history. Heller responds, "Yes, but I have something he will never have. Enough." For a critical element of our society, including many of the wealthiest and most powerful among us, there seems to be no limit today on what enough entails.
If you don't have a number, there's never enough. Ask Elon Musk and ask Warren Buffett and ask, Steve Jobs when he was still alive, how much is enough? And their answer would always be a little bit more. It's probably anecdote, but it's probably not untrue that Ted Turner, I think at some time he was like the 11th richest man in the world. And they asked him, well, what could you possibly want? He said, well, to be the 10th richest man in the world. So there's always this desire for more. That's the first point, is to acknowledge that in our human nature. If we didn't want that, we'd still be rubbing sticks in the dirt to light fires and not flipping a switch like the beautiful room I'm in today with electricity. We wouldn't have those things if we didn't have a desire for more. So it's okay to want more. But the second point is, if you don't know what's enough for you and your family and for your goals and your legacy and your budget and all the things you want to do in life, you might be there sooner than you think. There might be a different way to get there. And it's almost never just earned income, which is why we're such a fan of yours and Freedom Founders. So those are kind of the 2 points that come to mind when you start thinking about how much is enough. Most people don't know. So when I get a new member at Burleson Seminars, we'll grow their practice from maybe 1 million to 2, or from 2 to 3, or 3 to 4. And they always think, well, if I could just get to 3, I'll be happy. And I just kind of laugh and go, uh-huh. And, a year or two later, they go, well, now I want to go to 5. And then they want to go to 10. So that's all under kind of the foundation that underlies that was why, why do you want more? If you know why you want something and you can work backwards from where you're headed, you're much more likely to get there than to just say more. And it goes without saying, and I've fallen guilty of this trap, if you don't know why you're doing it. And I had this conversation recently with Scott DeRossi, the former Carolina Blue, UNC. He said, really, really easy to wake up one day and go, what the hell am I doing all this for? Don't make that mistake. Don't wake up and go, well, okay, I've got all the money, I've got all the cars, I've got all the houses, got everything I want, but my kids won't talk to me. I'm on my third marriage and I'm miserable with life, all these things. My health is going bad. And so I see, unfortunately, a lot of entrepreneurially minded people fall into that trap. I obviously caution you against that. Hang around smart people like Dr. Phelps and his team, and you hopefully won't make that mistake.
You and I, a similar background in this respect. We've always been curious about other things. Yes, we had a focus to go into dentistry, for you, orthodontics, move to different levels there. And that's what I call our primary plan A. That's the engine. That's the engine that can drive everything else we want in life. To your point, when everything is focused on that, I often say that there's a blessing and a curse to having the privilege and doing the hard work to earn above average income. And that's what we're able to do. We can, particularly in kind of the walled garden of healthcare, dentistry, orthodontics, there's always a need there. And so as long as we're willing and capable of working, we can create a lifestyle But oftentimes that lifestyle is based on metrics that aren't really inherent to what really gives us joy and freedom and happiness. They're based on societal metrics. It's kind of like, check these boxes. If you're in this industry or you live in this neighborhood or you're part of this community, well, there's some inherent boxes to check, and you're kind of always looking around going, if I check those boxes, and many times you say, well, I'm not quite good enough on this one, so I need more. So what does more really give us? To me, it's like many times we're playing the wrong game. We're playing the wrong game. If you're playing the wrong game, then the metrics we might be using may be the wrong metrics, and so we've got it backwards. When we want more, to build more, to have more income, more net worth, what is it we're really striving for? Well, most of the time, I think all of us would say just more discretionary time. Not to lay in a hammock, not to play golf 7 days a week, but to have discretionary time that we can actually focus on other parts of us that's been with us, all our lives, that we just kind of put on the wayside when we got into the kind of robotic point of we got to have the higher education and march those steps. We've all done that. We've all done that to the benefit of serving a lot of people, that's impact. That's wonderful. But then there's also the negative side of what have we left behind? I often call it the price of time. We talk about the price and cost of everything else in life, but what about the price of our time? What are we giving away? And who else besides us? Because we're kind of the martyrs. Well, I'll go do it. I'll do it for the good of the family. But what's the family have to say about that hard work? What kind of votes do they have? Maybe they don't have a majority. They don't get a vote in certain families, right? We both talk about this, in some of the groups we've been in, business and profit, overhead, all very important metrics. But when we really get with people who are really about life, we start to get in these deeper parts about, like you said, what am I doing this for?
Yeah, I think, someone said it smarter than I, that, embrace your layers, right? Like an onion. We go to Vail every year, and there's a lot of international travelers there. And most European clients I know, and most Europeans I'll observe skiing, they usually ask where you're from. You'll often hear people say, oh, where are you from? Is that your uncle? And so it's familial and it's, regional. And in America, it's always, occupational. It's what do you do? That's okay. That's a big part of the layers of your onion, but there's so many other layers. So if you're a dentist watching this, or an orthodontist, or a physician, that's a big part of who you are. But you're also probably a spouse, or a guardian, or a parent, or a brother, or a sister, right? You're a member of a community. Maybe you're Christian, maybe you're Muslim, maybe you're Jewish. There's a big component. Maybe you're an avid tennis player. Maybe you're a cyclist. You can't just give yourself a 10 out of 10 in the dentist category because you've got a big practice, and then simultaneously give yourself a 0 in the health category, a 0 in the freedom category, and say, well, I'm being successful. We're often chasing the wrong metrics. And so I think, again, it's really critical to think through, what are all of my layers, and how am I doing in each of those areas, and how am I living up to my God-given potential? Because most of us, if we're honest, could do better, but we think, well, I've got a successful practice, I make a lot of money, I've got 3, 4, 5 locations, associates, and so I'm successful. And meantime, we're suffering in other areas, other layers of our life. So taking that time to define it, what is freedom for you? And that could be different for everyone, but it's probably rhymes with being able to do things when you want, with whom you want, the way you want. So you're not at the end of your career living on government assistance in a nursing home with 3 roommates and family that won't come visit you, no free time to do what you want to do. It probably has some level of autonomy in it. And unfortunately, if you don't protect that from the very earliest stage of understanding it, someone else, the wise George Bush, boy, doesn't he look wiser and wiser as the years pass? George W. Bush, right? When he was president, nobody liked him. Like, he's actually a pretty cool guy. Well, the Obamas even like him. He's a cool painter, and some of the stuff he said is really smart. And one of those was, if you don't have an agenda, someone will set it for you. I'm paraphrasing, but he's right. And if you don't have an idea of what freedom means for you, I can tell you where you end up, and that is in with the general population, who will do all those things, by the way. They will be living on federal assistance. They will be in a nursing home with 3 or 4 people. And that's unfortunate, right? That we live in a society where we don't trust and allocate a priority of freedom, where we trust individuals to do their own retirement. We got to take some of their paycheck away and squirrel it over here and tell you that'll be safe for you one of these days. And, so if you don't have an agenda for your freedom, I can tell you what it looks like. And it's a very unfree agenda for you. It's a very restrictive agenda for you. Taking time to visit grandkids, for example, living life on your terms, getting to go see Wimbledon if you want, if you're a tennis fan, right? So it's always something I wanted to do, right? Well, then go do it, damn it, right? Like, what are you waiting for? That's a long, rambling answer, but you've got to set it out and start to talk about it with your family. Now, how many vacation days do you have? Or how many days off are you working on the business and not just in the business? Because dentistry, as you know, is a really interesting, high paid job that you can't quit. It's often not a real business. And the minute you step away from the chair, you've got to pay the entire team while you're away on vacation. And you've got to then suffer the loss of income while you're away on vacation. And that doesn't sound very freeing to me, where I grew up with that, right? So my dad had a dental practice and we'd be on vacation. He'd be calculating how much this cost, like, oh, I'm losing 50 grand in revenue this week, and I got to pay the team to be there. And, that's a stressful way to live a vacation. So set it out, talk about it now, and hopefully you'll start to move towards it.
Yeah, it really comes down to the fact that we can become very good at making the money in a profession, in a business. So the skill set and with marketing and all the things, operations and systems, and you can get really good at that. But I often say that it doesn't really matter how much you can make. It's, do you understand how money works? That's the other side of it. And I don't mean money inside your primary business, but money outside, developing that plan B. I have the privilege, as I know you do as well, to speak with younger generations. We both have younger generations. Every generation has its obstacles that they go through. Every generation has parts and parcel of challenges and obstacles and cultural shifts and changes. But no question that younger generations right now, if anything, if I could point out one thing, and everybody would agree to this, that we're saddling the young generations with massive debt. They're taking it on, and many of them don't even understand it. And many of us in my generation, which I'm a generation ahead of you, we really had tailwinds of a lot of pluses that moved the needle for us. Yes, we had to go out and do the work and be expeditious in our work efforts, but really we've tailwinds for many years, and I think that the tide's turning. So I don't ever want to tell younger generations that there's no hope. There's always hope, but you've got to think about life differently. Now, this portends for even people that are of my generation. Just had a call with a doctor who's towards end of 50s, going on early 60s, and provide for his family well and did all those things, but the body's starting to wear out. Back, the neck's hurting, and it's always like, well, I'd like to be out in the next 2 or 3, years, but realistically, it's going to be 5 to 7. And start asking the questions, having them reverse engineered to what is it we're really trying to get to. To the same point, no one really knows. That's why I wrote a book that kind of is around this whole theme of how much is enough and how do you get to those questions that will help you answer that. And it's not a solo thing. I found that couples really need to have these conversations. We're talking about family. We're talking about family dynamics. And in our own marriages, we take on different roles, right? We take different roles so much. Most of the time, female better halves are really the protectors of the family. Now, protecting lots of things, safety, but certainly security is a big thing. Time, memories, and we're oftentimes out there like, yeah, we'll get back to that. Yeah, just let me go out and slay a few more dragons, and I'll be back, someday. And so having these conversations, now is much, much better. I think these are things that, again, we get mixed up because society and industry drives us towards metrics that really don't paint the entire picture very well.
There's a TED talk by, I think the physician's first name is Alex, but you can Google it. It's either Waldman or somebody. So he's the head of the Harvard longevity study, basically a study where they followed Harvard grads. And you're familiar with this study. They followed them for, I think, 6 or 7 decades, and they looked at every measurement. In fact, John F. Kennedy was actually one of the participants in the study. So they looked at everything from bank account balance, in-depth surveys about relationships and what they did for a living and promotions, and whether they had ever went to jail or had addiction issues or weight. They took blood work. They did intense studies on people trying to get to the bottom of longevity and happiness. And as you know, it's not the bank balance, it's the quality of our relationships. It's the having something to go do. And yeah, if the females in the relationship might lie about their age, the men in the relationships usually lie about their balance sheet, right? And so the man's, oh, it's fine, right? Let me just go do a little bit more. And the reality is, if you're not looking at not just your lifespan, but your health span of what are the quality of those years based on your relationships with spouse, kids, friends in the community, members of whatever civic organizations you belong to, then at the end of the day, as you point out, what's for? Is it worthless? But it's just statistically probably less likely to live a longer life because you don't have something, that's really driving you forward. It's amazing how many surgeons I meet and have worked with at Children's Mercy Hospital and have heard stories of going to their very last day, pushing into their late 70s and 80s, operating, and then the minute they quit, within 3 months, they're dead. They don't have anything to look forward to. Their one identity is now shattered and gone. And that is often precipitous of a quick mental decline, and a slip and fall or something happens and off they go. So, having a more balanced life, whatever that means to you, I tend to skew towards the side of merging life and work and fun and all those things. So I'm here in Seattle right now, but we're doing some fun stuff this weekend. So it's not like there's big distinctions or boundary lines between my work and play. I'm often on vacation trying to meet with a client or do something to help a client. So you get to define that. But to your point, if you don't, probably really unlikely to hit that target, right? If I said, hey, David, come on, let's go. And you'll say, well, where are we going? It's like, doesn't matter. Just get in the car, right? Like, if you didn't know where I was going, like, what's the weather going to be like? How should I dress? Are we going skiing in the mountains? Are we going scuba diving in the ocean? Where are we going? If you're crazy enough to get in the car with someone that doesn't know where they're going, whether it's going to be a 20-minute trip or a 12-day trip, realize that almost everyone in the general population is doing that with their life. They just get up, go to work, get up, do what they think is the right thing, got to pay the bills, right? And at the end of the day, they don't have an answer for why they do what they do. You get to the end of a career and go, okay, that was not what I envisioned. The someday never happened. The trips with grandkids never happened. The learning a new language or going to take pasta lessons in Italy, whatever that is in your list of things you want to accomplish and do, setting up a nonprofit foundation, working with at-risk youth, donating your time to a charity, whatever those things are. If you don't have the margin in your life to do those, they don't just suddenly show up. No one just shows up and says, hey, so you've got some extra time on your hands. Here's a bunch of extra money. And it's a great little game we play. And I learned it from our mutual mentor, Dan Kennedy. He would say, if I handed you a Powerball winning ticket, I play this game with clients all the time. I said, listen, you don't know, but I talked to your wife and she knows. And last night you won the Powerball. You won $100 million. Congratulations. I want you to go to the whiteboard. Here's a dry erase marker. I want you to go to the whiteboard. And I want you to write down the first 5 things you're going to do. If number 1 on the list is sell the damn practice, then you do not have an idea of what your freedom goal is. You don't have an idea of what your life's really about, because that's typically not the response for someone who has a bigger vision for where they're headed, is to take the thing that's gotten them to where they are and kill it, right? So you've got to think through what's really driving your decisions in the business. And often it's coming from a pretty scary place. But the good news is you can redirect that. And again, it's why we love sending clients to Freedom Founders and why I'm always happy to share you all with everyone we work with, because it isn't just a financial change, it's a life change. And it's really very powerful.
I like to think of it as a think tank where you've got like-minded people that are on similar goals, but doing it together. Mindset, how we think about everything in life affects our actions, our behaviors, and that affects the outcomes. And we all grow up we've all been conditioned by well-meaning people, environments we grew up in, and we all start out with life and we carry certain beliefs down the road. I love being in a place where there's others that are very sharp, very deep thinkers that help me test some of the beliefs that I've held for a long time and say, well, is this really true? And I see so much of that happen in our community where oftentimes people come with, hey, just show me the high ROI, IRR of XYZ. Yes, we can look at those things, but you're really looking at or asking or searching for the wrong thing, back to playing the wrong game. And it really comes down to how we think about ourselves and really position ourselves for, in this case, advocating for our own financial future. Now, certainly we do that in our respective businesses. That's what we signed up for. That's part of what we love doing, is we kind of get to be in charge, whether it's good or bad. We're making decisions there. And that's why we do it. We don't want to work for somebody else. We want to take the reins and roll with it. Why don't we do that with our money outside of our business? Right? Well, because Wall Street says it's too complicated. So don't even go there, because doctor, in this case, your time's more valuable and you don't want to even go there. We'll take care of it for you. Well, that's the first fallacy. And again, I'm not demeaning people that are in the financial space and really know that. I just found in my life that like one's business, which is it's a tangible asset, right? It's not financial paper. It's not arbitrage, which again, people that can do that well, bless them. I just only understand what I can see in front of me. That's why real estate was so appealing, because like a business, it's like, well, I can get in there and get my hands dirty, and you will. I don't like to do that so much today. And so I think the part that a lot of people think about is say, well, I'd like to be more in charge of my money, but Wall Street's cleaner. I can just put it in the 401k and someone else will just push the right buttons and keep my fingers crossed and it's supposed to be there. Versus, if I have to actually get involved with putting my money into tangible assets, which might mean learning something that's outside my box. It might mean I've got to invest some time with building relationships and understanding what this looks like. That seems kind of hard. I tell people, well, everything in life's a trade. It's always a trade. I'm not saying it's right for everybody, but what I believe is that more and more, if there's ever a time, we're in some major generational, political, economic shifts. And we don't have to go down that rabbit hole. We both agree that there's some major shifts occurring right in front of us. And whether you're a younger generation, our kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, or students that we have the opportunity to mentor, or just our colleagues that are mid-career or trying to be enders, I think our responsibility is to help give them the guidance so they can make the decisions, or if they desire to make decisions, learn how to do that. Full-time, collapse time to learn how to do that, because these are skill sets that most don't learn, again, because the tendency is to become complacent. I can make the money. As long as I'm making money, I don't really have to worry about that. But yeah, the day you're not making the money, you don't want to make the money, you want to check out of the chair, so to speak. Now it's a new ball game, and kind of wake up calls right there in front of your face. It's like, wait a minute, that 401k that's got XYZ in it. Yeah, but how does that really work now? Oh, well, yeah, the market's just tanked on Monday. Gee whiz, how's that going to work, right? I mean, this is the wake up call that smashes people in front of the face, and it happens, on a regular basis. But people have recency bias, and they just forget that these cycles happen.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, the point about give me the biggest ROI, because everybody wants an easy button, and we'll come back to that. But just the concept of the destructive power of inflation and taxation on a 401k, everyone I've met who's not only happy and successful, but doing it at a level in the 0.1% or at least the top 1% has two things in common. They have a business and they have a lot of real estate, right? And so they also probably have very nice 401ks and nice portfolios, but they always have a business and they always have real estate. And the reason, as you mentioned, is these are tangible things. And right, so I had this argument with a friend who tends to, be on the economic, on the side of the fence of the economic theory, where we can just kind of print money as long as, and I'm like, well, as long as there's, foreign governments and people willing to invest in the US dollar. But I said, hey, look, I said, just in the last 4 decades, look at what the US budget was, how much tax revenue the US government took in inflation adjusted dollars. We should be taking in, right, or just shy of $1 trillion, right? Inflation adjusted. Hey, we just kept the budget the same. Still the world's biggest military. Still the biggest, best highway program. Still plenty of Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. Plenty of that to go wrong. And even with growth of the population, a rough estimate, should be just shy of $1 trillion. But we collected over $4 trillion, right? So we're collecting 4 times more tax revenue than probably we need to be collecting. And why is that? In our world, as entrepreneurs, you're going to have to out earn all of that to continue. I don't see them going down. I really don't see them down anytime soon. And even if there are income tax cuts, right, from energy tax and property tax and sales tax and real estate, all of those things continue to go up. And so we have to out earn it. And the way to out earn it is to the biggest drivers of wealth I've ever discovered in a free economy, enterprise, owning your own business and having real estate. So I think those are, probably things that the average person, to your point, doesn't want to take the time to learn. And how boring would life be if everything was an easy button? If David could just ship you via FedEx an easy button, you push the button and suddenly your ROI is 30% per year and you get to go sit on a beach. Like, how quickly would you get bored, right? The exciting thing in life is the challenge, the struggle, right? It's why I'm not here in my little outfit today for shits and giggles. I'm here because there's a challenge in these clinics. I'm trying to help with those challenges. That's fun because I'm learning. To sit on the boat and eat pizza all the time is occasionally, a fun thing to do, but not 24 hours a day. Avoid the temptation for the easy button, right? Be okay learning new things. No one was born knowing how to run a business. No one's born knowing how to invest in real estate. And these are things that are worth your while. If you look around and go, okay, of the 20 people I know who seem to be the happiest, healthiest, and doing the most exciting things in life, they all have these 3 things in common. maybe worth studying those three things, right?
The traditional model of retirement does not account for more than the state of your finances, often at a very mediocre level. There is no plan for your relationships, your health, mental or physical, or even a concept of what you're supposed to do besides play golf 24/7 or lay on white sandy beaches. That may be peaceful for a time, but that does not bring meaning, fulfillment, or joy for most of us after a while. Just because you don't have to work doesn't mean you can't focus on new endeavors. That's why I don't like the word retirement. In my new book, How Much is Enough, I emphasize an alternative model to the traditional retirement path, which solely aims to give you back your time for what matters most to you. It begins with determining how much you need specifically to pay for your lifestyle. Once you figure out the end goal replacement income that you need, as you progress towards it, you start freeing up your time now versus later. You don't have to wait until some mystical age when you fully exit your career or sell your business. You can start creating more freedom, work the way you want to, prioritize your health, and spend time with your family, and eventually be able to exit your career far sooner than the traditional retirement age, which is currently 62 in the US and 69 for dentists. What I will dig into next are some of my thoughts on why dentists specifically prolong their careers and how I've personally translated my wealth into more time, showing how you can do the same thing. Most professionals buy into the fallacy that their uncertain and unpromised time in the future is worth more than the time that they have now. Why do we continually choose to sacrifice our time now in our careers for a future time? Most don't understand the true wealth that money can provide. It's not more stuff. It's more time. Morgan Housel said it well in his book, The Psychology of Money. Money's greatest intrinsic value, and this can't be overstated, is its ability to give you control over your time. That's exactly what we teach our members to do. How to use the capital that you've acquired, give you back your time. When I was in what would be for most people mid-career, I was in my 40s. My practice was moving along very, very well. Over that period of time, I had built out a substantial private clinic with multiple hygienists, almost always an associate doctor in place, and things were going well, although I was working very, very hard, as most of you probably understand that element. When my daughter Jenna, who had already survived high-risk leukemia at a very early age, multiple outbreaks of epileptic seizures, and ultimately a liver transplant, forced end-stage liver failure at age 12, I decided I had had enough. Enough of being torn between being a father for my daughter and being responsible and the obligations I had for my patients and my staff and my practice. It was a hard decision, but it was also an easy decision to let go because of my daughter. And I had already created a plan B through real estate, which over the period of time, the compound effect of just slow, steady investments provided me at least an exit pathway to buy back more time. That's what I needed. I needed more time, not more cash flow, not more revenue, not more profit, not more EBITDA. I needed time. So I converted the equity in my practice and added that to what I already had in real estate, and realized at that point I had enough to at least carry me through a significant period of time. Now, I could always go back to dentistry, but I didn't. The additional margin of time that I created by taking that exit that I thought would be temporary turned out to be permanent, enabled me to even move into what I call a second phase of life, beyond the chair. Now, this is not for everybody, and I'm not telling you it's something you need to do or should desire to do. Perhaps you may. But the option I gained by having the additional Plan B assets in real estate, the cash flow that was produced by those assets, where I didn't have to go to work anymore, allowed me permission and the logical rationale to make that change when I did. That opened up all kinds of doors for me. That's what we do in Freedom Founders today. Whether you're early in life and building your game plan, mid-career and looking for a potential exit down the road, or you're near the end of your practice and trying to figure out, do you have enough? How do you make this work at this point? Becoming your own best financial advocate, being your own fiduciary, and learning how to take the assets you have, the capital base you have, the retirement accounts, the tax brokerage accounts, wherever you have your money, the equity from your eventual practice sale, and get that capital money working for you without abdicating the responsibility to other people, which is actually what people do. Understanding how to do that, I think, is a skill set that people are going to have going forward. It used to be maybe an election. Today, I say no more. The world is too complicated with the economy and politics to try to just give it away to other people. You've got to develop the skill sets, and you can do it. I did it, and hundreds of other doctors and their spouses have done the same thing. It's there for you. It's all about your freedom. You've got to decide to step up and take charge. If you don't know where to aim, how do you know if you're hitting the mark? Most business owners and practice professionals continue to work far longer than they want to simply because they don't know when they can stop. If you want to learn how to determine your finish line and an alternative way to reach it while maximizing your freedom and mind along the way, you can order your free copy of my new book, How Much Is Enough, at howmuchisenoughbook.com. Again, that's howmuchisenoughbook.com. I'll see you next time.